let's talk about your level of beliefs,
Okay.
which is a really heavy one. I think you've done some amazing things, but I don't even know if you realize it, how much you had to believe in you in order to get through the convoluted roads that you found yourself traveling through at any given time, because you are still on a journey and you are still navigating roads, and I don't even know if you think about this, but have you ever thought about how much belief that you've had to have in yourself in order to make all of this happen? Hello, YouTubers. Hey, y'all. I am on location. This is Dr. Marnita on fire, and I am on location in Cleveland, Ohio. Actually, where I'm at right now, it's in Beechwood. It's a suburb of Cleveland. For most of you, you may know this is my home. So I am Dr. Marnita from P3 Purposepreneur, and what we do is we look for people who are really aligned with purpose, because there are three things that we are accessing. We are accessing your potential, your purpose, and your prosperity. And I am so excited. I'm super excited to have my girl here, but I'll tell you about her in a second. I will tell you about her. This lady is so dynamic. Y'all have no idea, but at the end of this video, when we get done, you're going to have just a glimpse of how dynamic she is. Her name is Zainab. Her people know her as Z, and she is currently, actually, this is a beautiful facility she has right here. It's called New Beginnings Spa, but we're not going to start there. We're going to lead up to there because y'all know how I am. I like to get the backdrop of the story. And so Z and I are going to have I would call it fire chat. This is a spa chat conversation. It's a spa chat conversation. So I want to introduce you to Z, owner of New Beginnings Spa, and say, hey, Z.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so Z and I have been knowing each other. How long has it been, Z?
14 years or so.
14 years. We've been knowing each other for a little bit over 14 years now. And we've had a lot of conversation. I'm going to share a little secret with you. She's like, dude, she does my waxing. Like, I get the whole thing done, and she does that. She's an amazing service provider. And if I'm not doing my waxing myself, guess who's doing it? She is. And so I want her to share with you a little bit about her background, where she comes from, and we'll lead in a little bit more into her story and how she has been able to position herself to live into her, not only to her purpose, but really set an intentionality on living into her potential. So Z, can you tell us how where did you, first of all, where did you start? Where are you from?
So I'm actually of Palestinian descent, only born and raised in New York, mainly raised in Yonkers, New York. So yeah, I'm first generation American. Both of my parents were born overseas. They've been here for 40 plus years. They actually migrated to Hispanic countries, and then ironically met in a very Dominican dominated area in New York, in which they spoke Spanish already. And then I came along. No, I'm just kidding. There were a couple siblings before me. But yeah, that's where I come from. I've been a little bit of everywhere. Panama, lived in Miami for a little bit. Went back to New York. I think we had a quick brush in Tennessee at some point. We were nomads, and wherever when our parents wanted to go somewhere, we had to go. They didn't. Kids are kind of different now. Now we're like, no, we don't want to leave.
So let's talk about what I know to be true for you, especially when it comes to your family. You are a person that has a really strong work ethic. Tell me a little bit about One, where did that come from? And how have you been able to sustain it over so many years?
Okay. So, first of all, I am one of a total of 9 siblings. But in the marriage of my parents, I am second to a boy, which means I'm the oldest. I got a lot of responsibility growing up, raising my siblings, even though we're stair-step kids. Do the math. I don't know how that works, but I was my mom's right hand, so I wasn't immune. I was not immune to like just always doing things and being there and being that provider, that nurturer. So I was really conditioned into this role, I would say. I was married. I got married when I was very young. I was 15 when I got married. I had 2 kids by the age of 17, and by the time I was 18, I was headed towards a divorce. And at the time when I got married in Panama, the country, and I lived there for a couple of years, had my kids. There was a lot of back and forth in the marriage and things like that. Ended up leaving, came back to the States. And at that point, my parents were living in Miami. At some point in the beginning, my dad was doing okay, and he was taking care of me and my kids. That was very short-lived at that point, because then he ran into some financial situations, and then I kind of had to step up. I had to step up not only as a provider for my children, but also for my family. And so, growing up on our time, we learned, so I'm an 80s baby. We did things for the family. If when push came to shove, you went out to work, you helped your parents with the bills, you took care of your family. And nowadays, I don't know, the kids might be like, oh, well, mom and dad, figure it out. That wasn't kind of how we did things, not culturally, not age-wise, just really, take one for the team kind of person. Now, at that point, we ended up moving back to New York. Still, I was providing for my family. And then eventually I moved out on my own with my kids. It was just a lot of pressure from my mom. She had had a child in her 40s after becoming a grandmother. So it just became too much for her. So I moved out on my own. So I was living in New York, specifically New Rochelle, New York. And I was working at first, prior to moving to Rochelle, I was working in a doctor's office. And then I was working at a hospital. At that point, I moved out on my own, started taking care of my kids on my own, and just kind of slowly but surely, I had no choice. I didn't, if I worked, I didn't qualify for anything. And if I didn't work, it was not going to be okay with me to not be able to have certain things for my kids. So then I had to work more.
Okay.
So I remember working at some point 7 nights a week and overtime during the day.
So you have 2 kids and you're working, and I speak to a lot of women over the years, a lot, and oftentimes the kids present a certain challenge. How does one, and I don't have kids, and so you're the expert in this category. So how does one overcome the challenges, the inherent challenges that are there when you have to take care of them and be the primary provider? Like, how do you navigate that territory?
I will tell you what I tell a lot of women. I run into a lot of women who are married, and their husbands have provided, whether their husbands are extremely wealthy or there's still kind of a struggle. I would say it's a trade-off. I mean, you really can't be a full-time provider and want to provide in the manner that I wanted to provide for my kids, or that I currently provide for them, and be 110% there as a parent. It's sad, but it's the truth. I mean, if somebody can juggle that in a sense, like, because maybe they're working from home and then they can like make sure that they put a meal on the stove every day, things like that. I can't do that. I mean, I've even considered, like, I even told my daughter, I was like, gee, I wonder if I put a stove back there, if I cook while I was at work, you could just come pick it up and take it home. Because the reality is,
there's trade-offs.
There's trade-offs. Okay. There's trade-offs. Okay. You can be more of a soccer mom when you have the ability to do so, the means to do so, because you need the money, you need the flexibility, and you need the support. And you can't make the money if you're just running around in your car, unless you have some fabulous job. Somebody call me and let me know how you can do that.
So what I hear you saying, the mother, in this case, you had to become the person in order to do the things that you needed to do to sustain your family's well-being. And oftentimes, I do a lot of like repositioning of mindset works where some women will give in to the obstacles that are really in their way and unable to navigate that because they're not willing or unable to really get a different perspective of what that could look like, because you just said you can't have it all. So do you remember some thoughts that came up for you as to how you're able to get a different perspective for what that would have looked like for you, because you have two babies
At the time, yes.
at the time. So if we
And
think,
I was a baby.
and you was a baby,
We
you
grew
had
up
your
together.
kids at 15. So how does one, because there's a lot of women like that out there that's listening to us right now. So can you give them some insight of how one is able to redirect their perspective of how to look at it a different way if they're feeling, because if we're emotional about that, if we're feeling we can't do it, how can you redirect that emotion to mean something else so we can have a different perspective, so we can think a different way?
I mean, any which way is possible. It is possible to be less of a provider and more of a parent. Mm-hmm. It is possible to be more of a parent. I mean, less of a parent and more of a provider. Mm-hmm. And I hate to put it like that, but you know, there are people struggling, and there are couples. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One's doing this, one's doing that. So imagine you having to be that one person. I mean, when my kids were younger, now I will say this, going back to those days, I worked the night shift. Mm-hmm. So for me, working the night shift meant I could keep them with somebody, in which I still paid, mm-hmm, okay, mm-hmm, to take care of them. I felt like they weren't a burden on this person because they were sleeping. Mm-hmm. I would then go pick them up in the morning, take them home, mm-hmm, and depending on how the schedule was going. So again, I said I literally worked 7 nights a week. And so I would, they had a half day school, and mm-hmm, I decided that taking them to the second half of the school was better for me because it would allow me closer sleep to my returning to my shift, but also allow me to get them ready, set, and all that. So I would go home, I would feed them breakfast. I would be cooking already, mm-hmm, 7:30 in the morning, doing all that stuff, getting them on the bus or taking them, depending on at that point, if they were taking the bus or not. And then I would come back home and I would sleep for barely a few hours because then they had to come home. Mm-hmm. So I really ran on very little sleep, and this is like the story of my life. But it's you kind of just do what you have to do. I think when your back is up against the wall, mm-hmm, you do somehow figure it out. Mm-hmm. I think you have to, and I hate to say this because it's not right and it's not fair for the kids, but it's not fair for you either. Mm-hmm. You know, mm-hmm, you have to remove the emotional part. What is important right now? Is it important that I take this vacation, or is it important that I put this food on this table for, mm-hmm, this kid?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And that was like, I had to make a choice.
Okay.
And you got to feed them.
So let's talk about your level of belief.
Okay.
Which is a really heavy one. You know, I think you've done some amazing things, but I don't even know if you realize it, how much you had to believe in you in order to get through the convoluted roads that you found yourself traveling through at any given time, because you are still on a journey and you are still navigating roads, and you I don't even know if you think about this, but have you ever thought about how much belief that you've had to have in yourself in order to make all of this happen?
I think the way that I've thought about it was, and I guess at some point we'll get to that point so people understand where we're coming from, because I'm, mm-hmm, sure they're like, well, what happened? I think I I think I took a chance. I think I knew that the only thing I really knew was I've been doing well. I've been working well. People know me. I have to go out here. I've created avenues for myself throughout the years, and we can talk about that as well. And I just, the only thing I was sure of is that if I didn't try, there was a possibility of regret, and that's what I didn't want to
that
live
is
with.
so good. So the cost of regret far outweigh the cost of not trying. Did y'all hear what she just said? I think that is so amazing because oftentimes I think people will get to the end of life and think about all the things that could have been done, but not willing to take the risk. And anything that you do is going to require risk.
Of course, anything. We're not promised anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've thought about, oh my gosh, what if my hands stop working? What if, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The running joke was, even if I'm in a wheelchair, as long as my hands go, I can expand the room.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? It was,
Okay.
you know, these, and that's why I created all these different avenues, because I didn't well, so to me, I thought I was creating these avenues because I didn't know where life was going to take me, but God knew exactly where I was going. And that's why he pushed me towards getting, you know, all my ducks in a row, so to speak. And not that they're in a row, but just safety nets. I have safety nets. I have options. I created those options for myself. And that's why I took this risk, because I knew no matter what, I had a backup.
Got you.
You know what I mean?
Got you. So when you just said like God knew where you were going, even though you may not have known where you were going, and which brings me to oftentimes what we as people tend to do is to look at our external life and consider that to be our true reality. But it's not, is it?
No, it's not.
And oftentimes it takes someone a lifetime before they figure out like your external circumstances is really not your true reality. And if you really want to predict your future, the only way you can do that is to create it.
Absolutely.
See, you say absolutely, but there is someone out there listening like, what do you mean? What does absolutely look like? What did absolutely look like for you?
So I feel like I cannot tell you how many times when I went back to school. So eventually, after getting my trades in my 30s, I went back to school. And I remember walking to classes sometimes so stressed out, like, why are you here? Z, you have these trades, you have this, your husband has a business, like you guys are doing fine. Like, you don't need this. You don't need to stress yourself out. These are kids starting their life, or somebody that want to transition from what they were doing and they just weren't happy with it, but you're happy with what you do. You're not planning to leave it, but you just want to do this. But I could have walked away. I just felt like there was something I needed to do for myself to protect myself for the future. I felt like the person that I was with was not securing my future, and I needed to go out and make sure that I had something. So but here's the thing. Now that maybe God was doing his work, but so was I. I was getting up, I was losing sleep, I was working 6 days a week, I was going to school at nighttime. There were nights where, I swear, Marnita, I would come home from work, go to clinical, go home, study for an exam till 6 a.m., sleep for an hour, come back to work and go straight to school after.
So what we're talking about now, so she went, I don't know if it was back to school or went to school.
I guess you could say went to school because it was my first college experience.
Okay, so she went to school and got, tell them what you got.
I got an associate I got an ADN degree in Associates of Science and Nursing, and I received Associate of the Arts. I doubled up because it was supposed to help me moving forward for my BSN. Once I got my ADN degree at Tri-C, yay Tri-C! I gotta give them a shout out. I went to Cleveland State University and I attained my RN to BSN. I went through it immediately once I was able to start. And then I entered my master's program.
So you have your associates in nursing, your
My
Bachelor of Science
bachelor's
in
of science in nursing.
nursing, and you also started a master's program in nursing. All the while you were working full-time. Full-time, tell them what you were doing.
So I am an esthetician and a nail technician, and she is my mentor, just so you know.
We haven't even got to that part.
Yeah, we didn't. So we'll just snuck that in there. And so yeah, I did that. It was very demanding. I had to be here all the time. I went through school and did all these things while, you know, in the midst of like the pandemic approaching. And so we were understaffed, and it just, you know, it seemed like everybody caught COVID or had a friend with COVID but me. And I was like, can I get COVID? Please. I thought I was gonna lose my mind. But you know, I love the business. I loved and still love my clients. And I had a loyalty to that. That's a big thing for me. I'm very loyal to the people who support me, support my family. You know, I put my kids were 8, were raised, were dressed. You know, yes, I did what I did, but they could have gone anywhere else with their money. So it was important for me to be here, the best that I could be, even as a person by myself sometimes, you know?
So now you have your, well, the nursing, I would consider that, because, you know, business is business.
Yeah.
And the nursing, as I hear you sharing the story, is kind of like your foundation. That's your solid foundation.
It is.
To keep you moving forward.
It is.
Actually, it's a resource.
It's a resource
To help her to continue to move forward.
And it helps me move forward
as
too.
she's building this amazing business. And so this business is new.
It is.
How long have you been open now?
I would say solid since June.
Solid since June. So we are sitting in her new facility, New Beginning Z Spa, open solidly since June. And I kid you not, all of the wall direct decoration, the doors, designs, and all of that, she did it with her hands. I seen it. I could, now me, I wouldn't have done but she has like put this thing all together, and it is absolutely beautiful. So we done tapped into your potential that I don't even know if you realize you had it.
I didn't think I had it, but I think when I came back and I started to see the support, I really felt like it wasn't just my potential. It tapped me in an emotional way. And I just thought, I remember the other day after my grand opening, we had so many people, it was amazing. People just came out. Even the mayor was like, I've never seen anything like this in this city. And the diversity was a big thing for him. He's like, you know, so we've always been very diverse, very open, very just, we have a great vibe here, and it's only gotten better, especially after I opened as New Beginnings. But I sat here and I said, you know, I had a couple clients come in after to say hello, hey, we couldn't come in, and they sat down, they started talking, and we were sitting like this, and we were talking. I was like, this building is not just for spa services. This building has a purpose far beyond the vanity part of things. I feel it, and I see it for the future.
I look at some of the signs that you have here. It has a healing component to it.
Oh yeah.
It's like I seen a sign back. Let me see if I can remember it well. She has a sign in the back that says ability, motivation, and there's a third word.
Gosh, Marnita, the memory is so crappy right now.
I know, but
it's very encouraging.
It's very encouraging. Be the energy you want to attract. I'm looking over at reminders of who we really are and how we need to be. Because being something is the input for doing something. The doing is the outcome, but the being is the input. The doing is the output. But you have to do something in order to have something. The doing is the input for having. The having is the output. Oftentimes you will come across people who want to have and totally skip over the being part and the doing part. But you can't have unless you become the person who can do the thing in order to have it.
Is there a more consistent word than often? And when some people are like, I wish da da da, and I'm just looking, I'm like, and I've been working how long, and I'm still not worth wherever it is you have. It's just, it's a constant battle. You're only going to get what's meant to be for you. But for me, it's like, do whatever you want, but do it with purpose. Do it with.
Let's talk about purpose for a minute. I like that you said that. When I think about purpose, I think about purpose is that thing that you love, and it's what you're good at. It's where those two intersect, what you love and what you're good at. And oftentimes I've worked in this industry over a quarter of a century. And oftentimes I will come across people and they would say, I'm looking for my purpose. And I'm like, well, what did you go in? You're going to go in a store and pull it off a shelf or something like that? And which is the reason I think it's so important that one learns because oftentimes, well, rarely are we taught to look within.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Nobody teaches us how to look within.
Like survival mode. You're not really looking. Sometimes you just try to survive. People are just.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Oh man, survivor mode.
Yeah, let's talk about survival mode for a minute.
She didn't. Sorry, guys. It's all right. It's 2023. Maybe in the 80s,
right?
It would have been a problem.
Exactly. But let's talk about survival mode for a minute.
What about survival mode?
Okay, so we have it's
the fear. It's the fear that something.
Because we just come through a pandemic. It's 2023, so we are a year removed from a pandemic, and and there are people still in survival mode.
Yeah, so because you don't know.
And I know everyone's survival is different, and everyone's fear-based is different. Like I get that. So, and fear is compromising a lot of people. You're a nurse. Fear is compromising a lot of people's physical health. And the way they think about themselves, the way that the stories they tell themselves, thinking they're getting through this mode of survival. So based on, because I've watched you for years, right? And even lately, I've watched you navigate this road of survival. So if you had to give 3 points that has really been a benefit for you, to help you navigate this road of survival, what would be 3 points that you can give our audience to maybe consider embracing so they too can navigate their own road of survival?
So I'm not quite sure if I'm understanding the question correctly. For me, survival for me, or why I use that term, I'm always, and I say it so much, I'm always in survival mode. And sometimes I say it and I'm exhausted when I'm saying it because I'm always afraid of not being able to do something for my child, to do something for myself, and not even luxury things, but just, I'm always worried. Yeah, basics. I'm always worried. Like, am I going to make next month's mortgage? Am I going to make the car payment? Am I going to make, you know what I mean? And so that's why I did all this cross avenue with different careers. I'm also a certified personal trainer, by the way. So, not that I've used it lately at all. Don't look at this video. You put up an old picture. Anyway, I'm always, and I think that's why I created these avenues. I was like, all right, Z, you love your job. It's great. We're moving in an industry where, the medical piece might take over. You know what I mean? Or what if your hands don't work? I mean, when I went into my master's program, I thought to myself, and my mom asked me, she says, you're an esthetician and your job is strenuous already, and a nail tech. And the way you do things, you use your hands a lot. And I cook and I clean, and I'm very old school in that way. So I abuse my hands. And she says, and now you're going to be a nurse? That's strenuous. And I said to her, Mom, that's why I'm in my nurse practitioner program.
Mm.
So for me, it's always like, okay, right now I'm healthy. I'm okay. Boom. I got to do something. Because a month from now, I might not be healthy. 2 months from now, I might not be okay.
Okay.
And that's, so for me, it's survival mode. This is what pushes me to do the things that I do, is survival mode.
So what I hear you saying is that you create a diversity in your life, different modes of resources, and you're using them in a way that could be resourceful for what it is you need, depending on any season.
And if all fails, I'm going to Amazon. They hire everybody.
And she's still being resourceful. Like, so she has mastered, really what I hear, you have mastered the ability to be resourceful about acquiring resources that you need to navigate any season in your life. So resourcefulness would be one, right?
Of course.
Is that a
yeah, absolutely. Resourcefulness. Yeah, I would say I'm very resourceful. I adapt very well.
Adaptability.
Yeah, a lot of people
be open.
Yeah, a lot of people have always hated a job. And and everybody has little complaints and stuff like that, but I can't ever truly say that I've actually ever hated a job.
Okay.
Like, I've always been like, oh, this is great. Like, oh,
Okay.
And I find refuge and I find excitement within the people that I work with. And maybe that was a blessing, that for the most part,
Okay.
I have had good relationships with the people that I work with, whether
Okay.
they worked for me, with me, above me, whatever.
I like what you just said. So what I'm hearing you say, depending on your circumstances, which could be good, bad, or indifferent, you always find an ability to maybe be open to seek out an opportunity that may be available in that particular circumstance.
Absolutely.
Would that be fair
Absolutely.
to say?
I'm not folding. I can't. I don't have a choice.
I hear you.
I don't I understand.
Y'all get this? Like, so it would be turning maybe not so favorable circumstances into opportunities.
Listen,
I'm just saying,
one time when I first worked here, I was working at the Cleveland Clinic, and I was working the night shift. And when I first moved to Cleveland, and I was still a single mom, and things got really bad because I couldn't. I mean, I got some hours, but I didn't get enough. And then working nights was just so tough because I would have to take my kids outside of their element to like my cousin's house or my uncle's house or something like that. And then I was like, well, I can't do this anymore. And they didn't have a day shift, and there was no stability. And I did the scariest thing, because I remember my manager, or before he was my manager, when he met me, he was like, ask your friend, to my cousin and to my friend, ask her if she wants to work as a waitress at Aladdins. And I thought, oh my God, I only know how to push paper. I don't know how to wait tables. I've never done that in my life. I mean, I know how to cook, clean, do all that, but to put me in a setting where, again, I'm the center of it, to me, it seems like I'm this center of attention and people are staring at me, and I was very uneasy, and it wasn't in my controlled environment. You're in my kitchen, I'm in control.
Right.
I'm in somebody else's kitchen, they're in control. So especially in a dining area.
Okay.
But when I couldn't work at the clinic anymore and I lost my car, I was living right down the street from Aladdins. What did I do? I went in and I got a job at Aladdins.
Wow. I think
walked to work every morning. I walked back with my kids, picked them up from school. They went to school right across the street, and we walked right back down together. It was what it was. And I had great coworkers who, if they saw me, how dare you drive? How dare you walk? And I can take you. And that, so God has blessed me in that way. But I think God blesses me in those ways because He sees that I too am trying, that I'm not folding, that I'm not sitting down just waiting for a miracle.
So God has really opened up pathways.
Absolutely.
But He's going to do His part. And you've said this is like the second time you brought this up in this conversation. See, God is going to do His part, but you have to do your part.
I got to do my part. That I have my hands, my legs, my brains, my mind, my health. There's absolutely no reason other than I just don't feel like doing it to sit, and I can't.
Okay.
I would never.
So now we're up to the point where, she's gotten her nursing degrees, and she's still working full-time nurse, right? Is that right?
Well, so I'm PRN now. And I pick up where I can. I'm appreciative of that.
Okay.
That was an exception that they made for me, based on circumstance and me reopening the business and a lot of other things. And so I'm grateful for that. And like I said, I go, but God sends me these people and these blessings that are really looking out for me.
So you can't just sit there and wait for God to do something for you, because he ain't gonna do nothing for you if you just like sitting back chilling. Like,
if they want me there,
I'm waiting on God to tell me to like go do something. Like, God's like, I'm waiting on you to do something.
To fall from the sky. Because let me tell you something, if I thought that was gonna happen, I'd be out there like, hello. I'd be growing in cheese.
Okay, fair enough. So we've tapped into our potential, we've tapped into our purpose, and the last part of this is, how do we access prosperity?
Okay, translate a little more clear. Access prosperity.
How do we access prosperity? And prosperity could mean so many different things. I mean, prosperity, abundance. How do you really begin to tap in that and know that is yours, and it's yours by birthright? It's yours because God said it was.
But it goes back to like, you only
how do you begin to believe that? You know, that's so hard for so many people to believe. But how do you believe that prosperity is your birthright?
I mean, I think based on how you transition, and I hate to say it like that because I know not everybody transitions in the same way, but
that's okay.
And
if there's somebody out there that if you're not transitioning in a way that's really making you feel like you deserve
or you deserve avenue.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about.
Our prosperity, our quote unquote, as the kids would say, flex comes from feeling accomplished. If you're not doing anything, and I mean anything, I don't care if you get up, man, I really want to if I can clean my bathroom real soon, the way I want to, and tear it up the way I do stuff here,
right?
I would feel like I conquered the world. I would feel this sense of accomplishment. Every little thing that you do, sometimes it's hard to get up, but then you really have to think about that outcome. How does that make you feel when you get up? I came in this morning, I was like, man, I got to mop the spot. I got to mop the spot because, Marnita's coming over later. And, my clients are coming. Not
waiting on me all day to do this.
And then I got messy again because I had, I was working on it. It's, and it was just like I when I was done, and I was like tired before my day started.
Gotcha.
I was like, I got this out the way. I'm feeling good. I'm ready for my clients. I'm ready for people to come over. I'm ready for Marnita. I'm ready to make my phone calls. Like, it's like, I feel like you find it when you are working towards it, because how could you, prosperity is a feeling of what? Accomplishment or goodness or whatever. Well, how could you feel that way if you're not doing anything for yourself? And when I mean for yourself, I don't mean just going to the salon and getting your hair done, which is great. Self-care is very important.
I hear that.
But if that's what you're doing all the time and you have not felt that way, if you don't feel like, oh, I don't feel goodness. You try something else. That might not be, that might just be your routine. And it just might not be anything that's really
in there for you.
Because I find when I do for people, or when I do things, or when that's where it comes for me. That's
so good
where it is for me. Not just, but in that same light, like people are showing up and really showing out for me. Like I'm getting that too. And so it's like this, wow, like
it's like this reciprocity that's really like in flow
to take care of me, like look out for me like this.
Right.
And it's just like, and I will say this, it took me a lot to be accepting of this goodness, because oftentimes we haven't, like, when people are like want to give, we like, oh no, I can't. I can't take that. And people, and I can't tell you how many people I ran into in the Z. Don't shut those blessings out, because what's going to happen is you're going to shut them indefinitely. And then when you come to do something,
they're going to shut them on you. And then
you're not going to be able to, because we were meant to serve. Think they're worthy enough to help you. Then no, ma'am, you stop. You not worthy enough to help nobody either. Now, in that sense, then that means that I'm not gaining the means to do it.
Right.
Whether it's emotionally, financially, whatever the case is,
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I
You
just,
got it. You got this, girl. So, um, for those of you who are listening to us have this conversation, New Beginnings with
with
a
a Z,
Z
with a Z at the end.
has
New
been open
beginnings with a Z.
for a few months now, since June, right?
Mhm.
June, July, August, September, like, yeah, going
Check
on
us
3 months.
out.
Check us out at newbeginnings.com. And also, I'm going to put the link in the description section, but also we're going to do a little discount for those of you who make it through. I'm like, we are like, she's going to do, I asked her about this earlier.
On the website anyway. If you're doing it anyway.
Where you can book with her and she'll decide how much you thinking, Z? How much you think?
I don't know. Well, I did my first time people at 15. So instead of 10, why don't we do 15?
Oh, y'all, we're going to do 15%. So we're going to put a code, and then I'm going to put that code in our description area with the website where you can go book a service with Z, and allow her to service you the way that she has serviced so many in this community for years. And it is totally a way for you to start your healing path. She has a slogan, and I'm gonna let her share that with you, for New Beginnings Spa.
So with everything that's happened, and maybe you'll learn a little more if you go to the website, it's called Breathe Life into a New You, because that's what I was told, that I was no longer the person that I was before, and that I had to breathe life into a new me. So that's my slogan now.
Breathe life into a new you. To a new you, right?
Yep.
Right.
Because it's for everybody. It's not just me.
So is there anything else you want to leave our YouTubers? Hey, y'all.
Oh my gosh, you guys got to wait for part 2 now.
I know, right?
We got to take them in slowly. We can't just shock them out.
I know. This has been such a great conversation.
I know. I was a little scared. I mean, I probably could do better, but I was very scared.
You got this. We just talking about you.
I think because people are not, I can't see them.
Well, they gonna see her. Y'all see her, don't you?
Because it still feels like, because you know me, I could talk a mile a minute. I've been trying to hold myself. I'm like, you gotta let her say 2 words. You just gotta leave her alone to say she has the right to
y'all enjoy her. If y'all enjoyed this conversation, can you put a comment in the chat, say we enjoy, and please go to the site newbeginnings.com, and we look forward to seeing you at New Beginnings in Beechwood, Ohio.
3365 Richmond Road, Suite 120.
Connect with her and follow her on her Facebook page, facebook.com/New Beginnings Z.
With a
Z. And her Instagram at New Beginnings Z. And until next time, if this video has helped you, can you subscribe, like, and share? And leave a purposeful comment in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. And until next time, this is Dr. Marnita on fire with P3 Purposepreneur. At P3 Purposepreneur, we are pattern makers, and pattern makers are move makers. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.